Hello everyone, my name is Koji Kuroiwa, advisor to Japan Weathers Association. My presentation 1.1 is for climate and non-climate impacts on structures. This is an introduction to the main item, understanding of vulnerability of structures. For reducing the impacts of climate change, IPCC Working Group 2 AR5 presents an important step forward in our understanding of how to reduce the impact of climate change. It is a risk-based conception of climate change adaptation. AR5 considers managemental risk as the key to the reduction of climate-related impacts. However, there are a variety of factors that determine the rise and fall of the risk. A key point of the AR5's concept is risk of climate-related impacts results from the interaction of climate-related hazards with the vulnerability and the exposure of human and natural systems. The chart of the slide shows a schematic illustration visualizing the different terms and concepts which are relevant to those interactions. Let's look into the chart for details. Simply stated, this chart is telling us that risk is determined by the three factors, namely hazards, vulnerability, and exposure. And in order to reduce risk, we have two approaches. One is control hazards, which is affected by climate system by mitigation. And the other is to control vulnerability and exposure, which are subject to various socioeconomic processes by adaptation. So it is the key to the risk reduction that we focus on reducing hazards through mitigation and at the same time alleviating vulnerability and exposure through adaptation. Here, impact is defined as the effect on natural and human systems of extreme weather and climate events and of climate change. In short, it is the concurrences of hazardous events. Observed impacts of climate change have already affected agriculture, human health, ecosystems on land and in the oceans, water supplies, and some people's livelihoods. The striking feature of observed impacts is that they are occurring from the tropics to the poles, from small islands to the large continents, and from the wealthiest country to the poorest. AR5 defined risk as a potential for consequences where something of value is at stake and where the outcome is uncertain, recognizing the diversity of values. So risk depends on the likelihood or probability. Risk is often represented as probability of occurrence of hazardous events or trends multiplied by the impacts if these events or trends occur. It arises from the interaction of the evolving vulnerability and the exposure of human, socioeconomic, and the biological systems with changing physical characteristics of the climate system. And this is the core of the AR5's concept, as suggested earlier. Whereas hazard refers to potential occurrence of natural or human-induced physical events or trends that may cause loss of lives and properties, as well as social and economic disruption or environmental degradation. So hazards represent actual biophysical events that are driven by climate change. Tropical cyclones, flooding, heat waves are typical examples. Century scale increase of temperature and sea level rise are also included.